Welcome to Women at Halftime podcast, but not just for women, for you men too. If you're at mid-career or the halftime of life, our inspirational topics are not only fun, but also meant to help you maximize and write your next chapter. Right here with me, Deborah Johnson. Well, hello. We are here together today. Thank you, Greg, for being with me today with this, our Women at Halftime podcast, where we help those who are at mid-career, halftime of life, really over the age of 40, with life issues, business issues, personal issues, all of that, and being able to have a really successful next chapter. And my focus is, encouraging those to maximize skills, resources, all that you have, your experience. And that's why I put together Hero Mountain Summit. Make sure you check that out, heromountainsummit.com. I only launch that twice a year for people to sign up, individuals. And it will be available for companies here very, very soon. So today's topic is one of self-focus versus self-confidence. And I thought that was a good topic because we are in a relationship, a long-term relationship. We've been together a long time, and you have to spend a certain amount of time on self-focus, developing that confidence. But it's also important in business. So as we talk about these things and what it entails, it's not narcissistic. Did I say that term right? Yes. But it's important. And so we thought we'd touch on a couple of those areas and how to, and what is important in that self-focus to build that self-confidence. So I always love, Greg always tells me when we are approaching subjects like this, why don't I just interview you? I think I'm going to interview you a little bit on this.
All right.
Because there's some topics of this, I think, that are very important with emotional, with personal development, with spiritual, also with physicality. So why don't you touch on one of those things that you think are most important in our self-focus to build that self-confidence?
Well, so the most healthy businesses are ones that are pretty focused on their customers. And whenever you're starting a new business or you're going through tough times, it becomes pretty easy to get focused on yourself.
Yeah.
And because you got to pay the bills and you got to figure out how to eat and those kinds of things. So there's always kind of a tug of war between being self-focused and being in a healthy focus on your customers. So in order to serve your customers good, it kind of requires that you always be on a growing path yourself. You need to be aware of changes in economics, changes in technologies, changes in your own industry, what the competitors are doing, and all of those things. While they may sound like they're focused on yourself, they're really allowing you to better serve your customers over time. So there's, this balance that you're always after. And we all know people who've quickly slipped into being pretty consumed about themselves, and every conversation is about how smart they are, and that's hard to hide and easy to see. So the main thing is what we're talking about today is trying to maintain that balance and not getting so compulsive that it's all about you, but rather you don't lose focus on why is it that I'm pursuing these goals.
What a great kind of beginning to that, because I've been in the arts for so long, and they always say, let's change the conversation to talk about me, and then we'll talk about more about me and more about me and more. And we, because there's so much self-promotion that's really necessary. It's really necessary to tell people what you do. But also it gets to be to the place where we feel like, am I always talking about what I do? What is the healthy balance here? And the self-focus and, about what we are doing. So that's kind of a little bit in the marketing area, but the self-focus on the self-care is what I wanted to really focus on today too, because that builds our self-confidence and really the assurance that we don't always have to be doing that self-promotion, that our life will speak for itself.
Yeah, another area where I feel like a caricature kind of develops is in the physical. You have somebody who was out of shape, who suddenly commits to a great diet and getting in shape, and pretty soon they're consumed with how they look.
Yes,
and what started as something that was healthy, they were going to lose weight, they were going to get back in shape, suddenly becomes this consumption. And unless you're kind of doing the same thing they are, you're sort of a lesser person. Yeah, that's what we're trying to avoid. So it's just interesting how something was healthy initially, becomes a form of narcissism.
Right.
And I don't know if social media feeds it more or what it is, but whether you're talking about physical, whether you're talking about business, whether we're talking about, emotional healing, you've probably experienced people who've found a new religion, and suddenly, everything that you believed your whole life is wrong because they've got the answer. And, somewhere we lose the ability to dialogue about what's true and what's not. And so anyway, all of those things are kind of prone to us getting out of balance on. And I think what we're trying to talk about today is, remembering why you began this healthy pursuit in the first place.
Yeah, that's a very good way to put that, and you mentioned that narcissism, and I didn't want to entitle this episode all about narcissism either, because sometimes we feel, when I came from a background, it felt like, well, you don't want to do too much self-focus. You want to focus on others. And then you're told that with your business, focus on others. But you also need to take care of yourself. But that balance is that, tough.
Yeah, there's just a balance between caring for yourself and being consumed with yourself.
Right,
and,
right.
I think that's the balance that we're trying to talk about.
Right. So kind of to focus on some areas that are important to do that. And I've earmarked some of those areas of emotionally, spiritually. We talked about physically a little bit, but also time and personal development. And these areas that are very important to give self-focus to, that will build that self-confidence. And so we kind of mentioned, one of the last ones that I just mentioned was that personal development. And with us, I think the personal development is extremely important. What are you reading now? What are you learning right now? What are you studying? Now, when you say you sold a part of your business or a lot of your business in the financial area, what I know about Greg is he's constantly reading still. He doesn't invest for a lot of other people, but how many pages a week do you download from some of these? I mean,
I don't know. Yeah.
You do a lot of reading.
It's probably hundreds.
Yes, a lot of reading, personal development, professional development, still to keep up with the market, because you are still communicating a lot about that and working on, in areas of our business too, in our life. So in that, and always reading. So you're reading something else too. So, and we didn't, and I always put on these articles. I do an article with every single podcast that we do. And I'll usually give you extra resources as well, whether they're books or whether they're articles that I've written on this. So, but it's always reading, always, improving and learning what's out there, reading the classics and whatever, and how that is important too for our relationship. It gives us stuff to talk about other than, what doctor appointment do you have today?
Yeah, right.
Or whether, whatever. And it gets to that point of, as your body gracefully grows older, you just have more things to deal with, or, just all of that happening. So, well, let's talk about one of those other subjects. What would you like to talk about next? Physically, emotionally, the time where, it's important with our self-focus.
Well, I mean, time is an important one. Somebody once said that time is a little bit like a dollar. You can spend it any way you want, but you can only spend it once. Mm-hmm. And so, time's maybe the most essential asset that we've got. But on the flip side, people become narcissistic about time management. And when I was first getting into business, a lot of the seminars they were sending me to were, time management seminars. And literally you were keeping track of your day down to 5 minutes. And the bell would go off at 8, and you were supposed to be productive that whole time. And somewhere, I jumped out of the hamster wheel and realized that your day's got to have some white space in it, where you have time to reflect, time to think. For instance, let's say you've prepared for a sales call. You answered all your phone calls before you go on the sales call. You're all prepared for all the things that need to happen after the sales call, and the sales call goes average. You don't close the deal, didn't not get it. But an important investment of time is taking about 15 or 20 minutes and going over, how did the sales call go? And just evaluating, did I read the person right? Was I prepared with the right responses to objections that I, probably should have known about? Was I really aware of what their company needed, or was I presupposing something? And, but all of this takes headspace. And if you don't pencil it in, the next urgent thing is going to scream at you. And what happens is the day is over, the week is over, the month is over. You've never reevaluated and grown from that sales call. And the most important thing we can do in business is grow every week personally, so that we're better prepared to serve our customers next week. And I just found even in time management, the time management guys were narcissists. They were completely consumed. And if you didn't run your life exactly the way that they did, you were a chump. Somehow you were missing out on opportunities. You thought less of yourself. You were going to, end up being, less than who you could possibly be. And, all that's nonsense. So that's a good example of this balance that we're kind of talking about.
And it's really important. Time is such an important issue when you reach that point where you're asking what's next, or you're evaluating what's next. And it's, some people are thinking, okay, well, I'm just done. I'm just done. And we just spoke about this morning at our conversation. Greg, this weekend, was on a huge reunion. Like, was it an all-class reunion? What you had? It was something. But we've had a colleague at our house, and that he stayed, and he mentioned, someone that said, oh, we're going to retire at a certain stage. We're just going to completely retire. Well, what does the day look like? Well, I'm going to get up and just have coffee. Yeah. Okay. So what else are you going to do? Oh, I'll probably eat lunch. There's nothing. And what he mentioned is, he said, I think that's why she died early.
It could have been.
Yeah.
But
no purpose.
The flip side, though, of that is, I met with a friend last week, and somewhere in the midst of the conversation, he asked me, so what are you reading? Yeah. And I said, well, I'm rereading, such and such a book. And he goes, man, I never take the time to reread anything. I've got 3 books going right now. I go, I decided years ago that most people read too much and think too little. And that's just another issue of time. I think part part of the time management narcissistic thing that we all live on is we measure our success by how many books we read this year, as opposed to how many books did you think about this year? Because there's some books that I read in the last 5 years that deserve a month just to digest. And then there's other books that, if I spent 17 minutes reading them and adding it to the list of number of books I read this year, it would be fine. So, when reading becomes a checklist and it's a trophy, and the point is to, chalk up how many things you've read, I think you're kind of missing the point.
Yeah. What a great point on that too. And a couple of things I want to kind of add to that, because I don't know that I started rereading books until I started getting in, a little bit more ingrained in business. And so rereading Essentialism, I think I've read that book like at least three times, if not more, and take notes on them. And I'm also starting to listen to some books again, because I really realize when I'm on my Audible, I'm thinking, I forgot about that. So I just re-listened to like Elon Musk's bio, the whole bio. And I was like, oh yeah, because all of the things recently now that he's been, as this is produced, has been more in the news with everything. I'm thinking, I want to listen to that again. I had forgotten, we only retain so much.
Right.
And so, and another thing with time, and I didn't want, this whole thing is just not all about time, but again, it's that self-focus, how important that is. I think I've given myself a little bit more permission to take breaks, because I am the type A personality. You are a little bit different personality. Well, yeah, type B more, but it's a good balance to me. You get plenty done and you've been extremely successful, but in a lot of different areas, but we are just different personalities. And so for me, just saying, I am a little tired, I can take 10 to 15 minutes break at least, or, go out and do something else. And really what it does is it totally clears my head. And that's an area of self-focus I need to pay attention to.
Right.
It's important for me not to ignore those.
Yeah. And part of it depends on your job.
Yes.
But if you're an entrepreneur, you need fresh thoughts.
Yes.
A steady flow of fresh thoughts. Mm-hmm. Your life can't be just checking off things, ending the day and going home for dinner. You've got to have built into your day time where you can refresh and allow those fresh thoughts, to come about.
And that's emotional health too.
Yeah,
that's definite emotional health. And that was one of the things I wanted to, make sure I brought up, how important that is for our personal emotional health and our mindset.
Yeah.
So a couple other things we talked about physically, and about physicality and how that self-focus, that can be any of these areas can be brought out like way too much. Okay. So that's an over the top, we get, but in balance, they're wonderful. And how staying in shape physically and overcoming all of that is important for our self-focus. Nutrition and sleep and all of those things are very, very important for even building our, we're more confident. Right. We're not so exhausted. Our mind's not so exhausted, and all of that. And also spiritually, because I start my day out and you spend that time as well with our spiritual focus on our beliefs. And we're a people and a couple of faith. Okay. We have strong beliefs. But it's also important to spend time spiritually with what we believe and how, we reflect, that time to reflect. I think that's, and as you said, a lot of people spend.
And we kind of go the extra step to ask, okay, so what we're thinking about, how will that impact society? How would it apply to this set of friends? So, our reflection gets into the practical.
Right. I think that's really important. So Let's kind of sum a little bit of this up, because we've really touched on a lot of areas. We've touched on time, personal development, which includes, of course, our reading, our studying, our mental. We've touched on physical, emotional, spiritual, and part of that emotional is that we spend time thinking, taking break. I mean, some of my best thoughts and my best ideas come either when I'm taking our little dog Amelia for a walk, or I'm out trimming. I'm out in the back, and I have that freedom. I have a home office, and between our trips and whatever else we're doing, it's nice because I'm here, and I do work from my home office. So, but that's part of that self-care and saying, giving myself permission. Yes. It's okay. It's okay to take those breaks. It's okay to put aside the business for a while. I'm not in that much of a hurry, even though I'm still in the middle of creating something. I work well on deadlines, extremely well on deadlines, but the self-care is very important, and that self-focus. So, and that builds confidence in what we have and what we have created.
Right.
So let's kind of sum a little bit of this up. What can people take away? Couple of the things that I loved that were mentioned, which is such a good reminder to me, is, we read too much and think too little, with that thought. But what are some other things, little takeaways?
Well, I think another way to talk about the maintaining the balance, so we were talking about, is to realize that things that get measured get managed. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to be careful about how you measure success in a day and a week. So if the way you measure success is you made so many sales calls, you put in so many hours, but you're not measuring effectiveness, what will happen is you'll produce a spinning your wheel kind of life. Whereas in a balanced life, what you're trying to measure is effectiveness. How effective as a dad was I this week? How effective as a wife was I this week? How effective as a friend was I this week? How effective as a salesperson was I this week? Because marketing people used to get into this. They talk about, well, we spent this amount of money, we produced this many hits, we did that, but the point is, how effective was it? Did any of it translate into sales? And, there are some steps that need to take place so that effectiveness happens. If you're lifting weights, and the purpose of lifting weights is to build leg strength so that you can live a better quality of life. Well, the thing to be measured is my quality of life changing. Now, to get there, you need to show up to the gym every day. You need to put in the work. You need to do the reps. Those are all checklist things. Yeah. But at the end of the day, just because you were at the gym every day, did the reps, did the work, every 3 months, the important thing is you need a way to measure, has my quality of life changed? And the same thing applies to your marriage. The same thing applies to your business. Just don't lose focus on measuring the effectiveness of all your activity. And I think that'll help you not become a narcissist.
That was probably, if you've listened to this and you got that from it, that was pretty brilliant. I just have to say, that was pretty brilliant the way you put that. Because it's this marketing thing, always, you're evaluating, but what's the end result? What is the effectiveness? How is it helping people really change? How is it changing lives? How is it, or what's the result of all of this exercise we're doing?
Right.
What is my quality of life any better? So that is it's not just like, okay, so how much weight have I really lost? No, it's how I feel is what is the end result. So kind of getting there is the best thing. So I hope that was such a great aha moment for someone listening, but that was really well said. So again, thank you for joining us. And I just think about that effectiveness in what you're doing in your self-care and in your self-focus, building that self-confidence. Self-confidence is an end result as well. It is how effective, how self-confidence are you able to walk into that room and go, I know what I'm doing. I'm confident in what I'm doing. I don't need everybody to tell me this way you need to do this. That's a self-confidence because you've spent the time in your self-focus and you've spent the time preparing. So I hope that's helped somebody and you're listening today. And make sure that you connect with me, that you get these articles, goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. I'm going to say that again, nice and slow, right? goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. You can also get a hold of me on the Deborah Johnson Speaker, DJ Works Music. But that newsletter that comes out every single week, you will get all of the new news. You'll get free articles. I always give you something that's free in there. So make sure, and a lot of music as well. So make sure you connect with me and we will see you again. I will see you again next week. And so bye-bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.